Welcome to the 100 podcast. It's Ed and Charlie here with you. Hope you're well. Today we're joined by Hampshire and London Spirit leg spinner Mason Crane. Mason, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Not at all. Thanks for coming. Mason, first things first, you were picked up by the Spirit back in the 2019 draft, which feels like an age ago now. You got retained in 2021, and obviously you're still there now. Let's cast our mind back to 2019. How did you first find out you were selected for the tournament? Were you watching on TV? Did you get a call from Warne? How did that go?
Yeah, obviously was in the draft and stuff, and so I had a couple of mates around and we were just watching on telly, and it was pretty cool really, because I guess it could have literally gone anywhere in the country. I had absolutely no control over it. So yeah, it was a pretty cool feeling when my name was popped up on the screen.
Yeah, and obviously that was a couple of years ago. We're now in the middle of the tournament, and the 100 is obviously a brand new thing. It's a pretty unknown quantity. How have you found playing in the format so far? Is it drastically different to T20? What's it been like getting used to the new format?
Well, I think it's been really good. There are a lot of talk about different changes and how different stuff's going to feel weird when we got going, but to be honest, after a game or two, you kind of get used to the whole 10 balls in a row and not changing ends every set, I guess you call it. Things like that. And I guess there are other little rules that have changed as well, which again, they just took a game or probably to iron out. Stuff like if you get out caught, the batsmen don't cross ends and stuff. So. But to be honest, playing in it's been great, and once you're actually sort of stood there at the top of your mark or whatever, it's still cricket. So it's not been a whole lot different, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, this is what we're hearing from quite a lot of players. They're all coming back to us with pretty much the same message. It's still cricket. It feels pretty familiar. One thing I'm curious about there, Mason, is that obviously with an 8-team tournament compared to an 18-team tournament in the Blast, you've got a lot more concentration of talent. When you're out there on the pitch, does it feel like the standard is higher?
Oh God, yeah. No, I think it. Of course it is. There's more overseas than you'd get normally as well. There's obviously like you said, a concentration of talent, and we were talking in the change room before the tournament began about what sort of scores we'd expect, and I think Ravi made the point, that the scores aren't going to be that high because it's all the best bowlers in county cricket. So I guess that's there's no real weak players. It's brilliant, and I think, for being honest though, the standard of the Blast is pretty good as well. That's gone up and up since the last few years, and there's sort of a big push for white ball cricket in England in general, and a lot more guys now on white ball deals and stuff. So the standard all is brilliant, but I've got to say it really does feel like a high standard when you're out there.
Absolutely, and one thing I'm curious about as well is you've got a lot of Hampshire teammates in this competition. Is this the first time you played against some of them? And what's it been like coming up against likes of, James Vensley and Dawson?
Yeah, that was really strange. As much the players as it is the backroom staff, like a lot of the Hampshire backroom staff are involved with the Brave. So we played them last week, and that was kind of strange seeing all those guys that you're really close with wearing a different kit and just doing different stuff entirely. And obviously playing Vincey and Dawson was weird. Obviously, Chris Wood's Hampshire player as well. He got Vincey out, and I caught it on the boundary. That was a pretty surreal moment, really. It was kind of something from a middle practice, and you don't really know how to react, I guess, because it's obviously great you're getting him out, but it is kind of weird. Obviously you know him so well, so that's definitely something to get used to.
Yeah, and obviously results haven't quite gone your way for the London Spirit as of yet, but I'm kind of interested, how do you as a team go about putting that behind you and moving forward to the next games? Because you've got a really interesting squad in the fact that you have so much experience in the likes of Mohammed Nabi, Owen Morgan, Ravi Bopara, and then younger guys like yourself. How do you guys kind of go about, taking the lessons and learning lessons of the past few games and kind of putting it into practice for the rest of the tournament?
Well, if we're being honest, I don't think we've done a whole lot necessarily wrong. We're staying in the last game was a bit of a blowout. Those happen in a tournament, but certainly the two games previous, 2 run chases, I think we'd probably be pretty honest and say we should have got over the line. And like Morg said in it, and after the game the other day, we're not losing these games down to skill. We're just no one's really taking the game by the scruff of the neck and getting it done themselves. And we've not had that one real like proper standout individual performance yet to sort of just win a game on your own and just sort of take it there. So it's disappointing because I think you look at the team we've got, and if and when we fire, I think it's a really, really good side. And like I said, there's a lot of experience. So, it's great to be around those guys and learn off them. But, ultimately we've just been a bit short so far, and we're just, searching for a win really. And it's one of those where if we do win one of those tight ones early on, we'd probably win the next couple of tight ones as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the experience in the dressing room, and there's an awful lot there. I mean, Morgan, Joe Denley, Ravi Vapara, Mohamed Nabi, there's so much international experience. And is there anything in particular you really picked up from working with those guys, being in the same dressing room on the same pitch as them?
It's just all the small things really, like their sort of just calmness, and it's really, I always find it really interesting watching how people go about their business when they obviously know their game so well, as all those guys do, because they must have reached a point where they go, this is the right way to do things. And a lot of them are very calm. They're not necessarily big emotional characters that's going to let the game get to them. They're pretty level-headed and steady. And Morgs especially, it's just brilliant to have out there. When you're bowling, anything could be going on around him. He's just always the same, which is well, it's a very special sort of quality to have, to be honest. So, like it's just great being around those guys and watching them, how they're going to go about preparing for a game, how they go about a game day, things like that. It's always a bit of a pleasure really to see how they go about it, because they're all such good players.
Of course, and I imagine it's obviously so good to be around those guys. And one thing when I look at your squad that really interests me is there's a lot of spin there. Obviously yourself, Nabi, Rolf van der Merwe, Joe Denley, Dan Lawrence, both with a spin as well. What I'm curious about is with so many spinners in that side, how do you see your role in the side? How does your role get defined?
There are a lot of spinners, but they're all apart from me, batters as well. So I'm the only specialist spinner, if you like, and I'm certainly more of probably an attacking bowler than most of them in terms of obviously being a leg spinner first, but it's trying to spin the ball both ways and stuff like that. And it's also different when you get guys like Nabi, who's pretty much a banker in the power play. He's a very good power play bowler, whether he was a seamer or a spinner. It's kind of taken out of it a bit because he is normally done before the middle. So like the way the last few games have panned out, he would sort of bowl pretty early. Then it's almost with the two spinners and me and Roloff. So I don't think my role changes too much from what I do for Hampshire, really. It's just I'm in the middle generally towards the end and just trying to be pretty aggressive and take wickets. But, I'm also, I'm not silly. I'm never going to just start lobbing them up and try and take wickets, trying to go for runs. The game is about how many runs are scored at the end. So, I understand that as well. But my role doesn't really change from how I play for Hampshire.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I guess, being slightly more aggressive options. Obviously, Nabi bowls in the power play. Rolf van der Merwe is more of a defensive spinner, obviously a very skillful one, but he loves firing it in the block hole and being tough to get away. I guess one of the earliest memories a lot of people have of you bowling is when you played T20 cricket against South Africa, and AB de Villiers hit you into the stands, I think, a couple of times, but you tossed it up, got him playing the same shot and got him out. And I think it's that kind of aggression and ability to accept that might go for runs, which can be really special about leg spin and your bowling. How do you go about, and what is your mindset when you're in the middle of taking wickets? Basically, what is your mindset when you're out there?
Well, I think in T20 cricket, in 100, whatever it is, really short form. Like I said, the game is about runs, so I'm trying to not go for runs. Obviously they're going to try and hit boundaries and stuff and pick up twos and stuff. And I think by stopping them doing that is how you get your wickets in T20. I think if you were to bowl 4 wickets, if you know what I mean, then that's kind of where you become in danger there, because that's the sort of balls that you get people out with also the sort of balls that they can slog sweep for 6 and they can run down for 6. And then it's just about being aggressive with your field, really. Having done your homework and stuff, knowing where people are going to try and hit you, where can you put your fielders, try and make them hit somewhere else, and that's how you'll get wickets. And from spinning the ball both ways, I think it's going to be harder to hit me over the ropes or try and hit boundaries, really. And that's how I'm going to get my wickets. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily bowling for them. They just sort of happen through a build up of pressure, and if you get a couple of dots, it's that feeling, right? Well, they're probably going to try and hit me for 6 here. So where do I bowl? Where do I bowl to avoid that? What is their 6 option? Stuff like that. I think the wickets just tend to come in this format.
And obviously on that spin attack, again, you have a lot of variety, obviously lots of options. And we've seen you guys utilize 10-ball sets a few times with spinners to kind of utilize the correct boundaries that you might want to bowl to and good matchups. Have you found that challenge of bowling longer sets, especially when I guess batters have longer to see you, pick you, and kind of get a better understanding how you're bowling that day?
Well, I quite enjoy it, to be honest. It doesn't feel very long, actually, when you bowl it, which is a bit strange because obviously 10 balls is quite a lot. But it's weird when you bowl 5, you obviously have the discussion about whether you're going to carry on or not. It's, generally you feel like you've just sort of started, so you feel sort of want to carry on here because I'm just getting into it. And I think what helps that is obviously the same batter stays on strike. So if you have just bowled a couple of dots at someone or whatever, there was maybe a chance or something, you get to sort of go straight at them again. It's not this whole, like, obviously in normal T20 cricket, anything could happen in that other over and they may be on strike, they may not be. You just sort of don't know. In this, you can keep going at the same guy, which I quite enjoy. But yeah, it's pretty good. And to be honest, a lot of the decision is about just how we're both sort of, me and the captain, are feeling about, that feels I'm going to get a wicket in a minute, or it feels like they're going to struggle to score in this, so you just keep going. It's but yeah, it doesn't really feel as long as it probably looks from a watching point of view, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think over the course of the tournament, one thing I've noticed is that, particularly with seam bowlers, not so with spinners, but when the seamers stay on for an extra set of 5 after this first 5, so many times the 6th ball will go for 6 or a 4. And I guess it's true to spinners slightly as well, but slightly less so. But I guess my question is, why do you think it's so much of a spinners thing at the moment and less of a seamers thing?
I think as a spinner, sometimes you get like a bit of momentum against a batter. So you have a couple of dots or they miss a sweep or something, and you can just sort of turn around and quickly bowl another one. I feel sometimes seamers, because of a bigger gap between balls for them, obviously they've got a longer way to get back and there's more thinking time and it's more like set play ball by ball. And I think as a spinner, you can sort of bowl 2 or 3 balls without anyone realising. It's just sort of a bit more of a rhythm. So I think that massively helps. Obviously, if a seamer does bowl 10 in a row, it's going to take a long time. And yeah, that's probably just from watching the biggest thing, especially when seamers are bowling at the end. It's almost like every ball's very individual. What's gone before it doesn't necessarily have any impact on what's going to come next.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. Obviously, as a leg spinner, we've seen leg spin become an increasingly valuable commodity in the short form of the game after the last 5 years or so. And you've seen guys like Rashid Khan, Kais Ahmed come through and become increasingly valuable players. What is it about leg spin that you think is so difficult for batters to face?
Well, like I said before, in general, I think it's the thing of spinning it both ways. I don't, it's not necessarily about like the mystery of it, like people know it's going to happen. But it's more just that out of the hand, it might take a split second longer to just realise what that ball's going to do, perhaps. And then it's just in that split second, you've kind of taken away the option of hitting a 6 or whatever. They might be already started a swing on a certain path or something else. And then it's just because it's wrist spin, there's probably just a bit more on it. It's a bit harder to hit over the ropes. And if you do get it slightly wrong, a few more revs, a bit more spin or whatever, it might be a bit easier to catch an edge. Obviously the downside of it is that you probably bowl more bad balls over the course of a long period for the batter to hit. But, I think it's just that general, you're always just slightly closer to the edge of the bat in white ball cricket. I think a big thing to do with that is obviously it's when we play like red ball cricket, the spin on day 4 is going to spin no matter who's bowling. It's day 4. Because on this, obviously, they're pretty much fresh wickets all the time. So you've got to have more on it to be able to get anything out the surface. So I think that's probably the biggest reasons why his leg spin's done so well.
And as a leg spinner of your age, I imagine you grew up watching or probably inspired a lot by your head coach of the London Spirit, Shane Warne. How fun has it been working with him and being coached by him? And I guess, how are you picking his brains? Obviously, he's one of the cleverest bowlers of all time, one of the smartest guys out there, and is someone who really mastered the art. So how are you finding working with him?
Well, it's been amazing so far. And, like you said, it kind of is a bit of a dream come true for me. I think I speak for a lot of leg spinners at my age, probably, that we're probably all here because of him and what he did. But he's just been outstanding, really. This experience has been everything I really want it to be in regards to bowling with Warne. And every sort of warm up, every sort of training session, he's always making sure that he's there, and he's always talking to me about fields and how I can always be more aggressive and how I can try and play around with a batter and what shot I want them to play and things like that. So. He's been brilliant, and not just with me either, to be honest, with the whole team. Like his cricket brain is there for all to see. He's constantly thinking in his head, and not just watching him watch games is quite exciting because he's just constantly doing calculations of where he thinks everyone needs to be and who needs to be bowling next and who should be going in next and what shots that they should be playing and stuff. So it's been absolutely brilliant so far, and obviously he's not well at the moment, but hopefully he can get back around the guys soon.
Yeah, obviously it's a shame that he's out, and we send Warne all the best. But in those first couple of games, you could see that high energy really at practice. He was steaming around the field, talking to guys on the boundary, getting his thoughts out there. He seems to be really proactive with his coaching, which I think is really fun. Yeah,
he is. And that's great, because I think that there's a bit of a modern way of coaching that you kind of is a bit hands off and let the players work it out for themselves. And it's slightly refreshing at times to have someone actually go, no, this is what I think is best. We should try this. Why don't you move this fielder? Why don't you bowl around the wicket? Why don't you come from that end? Stuff like that is actually really refreshing. And it's great for everyone because he's making us all think all the time. We're constantly thinking about how we can improve, what I need to be doing in that scenario. And the great thing about him as well is his sort of team first mantra, which is really brilliant as well. He's just, whatever you need to do for the team is what he's interested in. And he's got us all thinking, which is great.
Yeah, it really does sound like you and Shane Warne are a match made in heaven as far as a coach and player combination goes. Moving back slightly to something a bit more general then. Obviously, your career started so strongly and you really burst onto the scene, played a few games for England, both in the white and red ball stages. Had a slightly tough season or two after that, but now you're really back to your best. Do you think the 100 can be a launch pad for you to push on both for franchise gigs and maybe an England spot too?
I don't see why not. I see sort of every game as an opportunity for stuff like that. Like you said, I had a couple of tough years there with injuries and stuff, and I didn't bounce back so well from my injury initially. But kind of since COVID, I feel like it's been going well, and this has kind of come at a nice time for me that I feel I'm fit again and bowling well. So, I don't. I'm not going to sort of worry about stuff like that, because I know if I just keep bowling well for a long time, then I guess it takes care of itself. I think that's exactly what happened last time. I didn't really think about it, and next thing I knew, I was involved in England stuff. So it's a big stage. Every game's on TV. Every game's an opportunity and stuff. I fully understand that, but I'm not really going to let it be in my thinking, because I don't want to sort of not have done myself justice and not do as well as I can because I'm thinking of something else. That's kind of not the thing I want to be doing. I just want to enjoy what I am doing, playing for London Spirit, enjoying such good competition and stuff, and just see what happens after that.
Yeah, well, best of luck for the rest of the tournament, Mason. It's been fabulous to talk to you. Really fascinating to chat to a leg spinner, and I feel very jealous of you working with Shane Warne's a guy above leg spin myself in the years. So thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck for the rest of the tournament.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening to the podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Podcast100. We've got loads of clips there, loads of different stuff going on, so make sure to follow us there. And please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to know what you think, and it would really help us out. So thank you very much for listening to the 100 podcast, and we'll speak to you next time.